Hello, welcome to Explora. My name is Riley and this is Lyric.
Hi everybody, thank you for joining us. This is a part of our Make at Home series, and today we are going to be talking about Automata. It's a bit of a tongue twister to say, Automata. And so what it's all about, this is an example we have. This is a little bit more of a complicated example, but all that is really a bunch of different moving parts. So you have gears, you have levers, you have all these different things working together to create one whole moving thing. So this is an example here. If we give this a good spin, we can get some movement here and have our teeth moving. And if you look at the back here, we even have some mechanisms in place to get the eyes moving. We didn't have that one going. But this is a brief example of what we'll be doing. And so the process we usually follow in making is that we design, we build, we test, and then the final thing is making improvements, and then basically testing again, and you should have your final product. So I'll hand it back over to Riley, and she's going to show us how to make this today.
Okay, this is a tester that I made earlier just to get a good feel for it. I'm going to make one in front of you guys today. So what you're going to need is 4 little square pieces of cardboard. And we cut these with a laser cutter here at Explora so that the pieces would fit together without any glue. But if you guys don't have that, of course, you can just glue the pieces together or use some kind of tape just to make sure that you have 2 sides, a top and a bottom.
Right? So. Even like string. There's so many different things you can really get into and making, which is cool. You can kind of make it your own. And then while she's even putting this together, I'll show you guys for our design process. This is an example of our laser cutter machine here was able to, we designed the dimensions we want, right? And then we cut it out like this. So that's something you can do at home, right? You might want to use a ruler and make specific measurements on how to get yours to fit, because maybe you want to even try doing a different shape or something like that. That's something you can consider. Oh, yes. And then if you also don't have like a box you can cut up, you can maybe find an old box that you have in your house, like a shoe box, tissue box. There's so many different things you can do with this. That's a great thing to think about.
So you can go ahead and walk through what you're doing there.
So I'm just sticking these pieces together, making sure that the side pieces have these holes in the center of them, and making sure that the top piece has a hole in the center as well. The materials you're also going to need are a couple of sticks that are going to be able to fit through the holes on the side and the top. You're also going to need a couple of cardboard pieces that are circular in shape. Depending on the shape of the cardboard pieces is going to affect how your piece moves. So if you just put 2 round pieces centered like this, it's just going to go up and down. For my example, we're going to use this oblong piece as a base, and what it should do is make everything spin. Oh, so I'll go ahead and show you how to do that right now. So what we're going to do first is stick the stick through the side, grab your base piece, and stick it through there as well. There we go. And through the other side of the box.
Nice.
Oh.
So pull it back just a little bit.
Okay.
And you can twist just a little bit. There's your perfect.
Okay, then we're just going to center in it, and then we're just going to center it, and we're going to make sure that this piece doesn't move along this stick. We're going to use a hot glue gun. When dealing with a hot glue gun, make sure that you don't touch the hot glue or touch the tip of the glue stick, that glue gun that you're working with. All right.
And then so as we're going along this process, you can see we're kind of testing as we build it in this case, right? So some things you have to like build a final product and test the whole thing, but in this case, while she's building it, she's kind of taking time to make sure like each component is working on its own. And then when we put it together at the end, right, we might have to do like the final test and make improvements again.
And I'm trying to spin the piece as I glue it to make sure that glue goes on evenly And it's okay if you have to use a lot of glue or if things get a little messy.
Right.
Oh, that's very messy. All right, so
Looks great.
that should be good and on there. Next, we're going to get another circular piece and go ahead and stick that through. Now, this piece is going to be spinning on the oblong piece. For this piece, you should make sure that it is flat against the bottom like this, and then you're going to glue that on there. So just go ahead and stick through the top. Put your piece on there and make sure that it's flat against the bottom like this.
And before we started making this one for you all today, we did make like a prototype. We did like prototype one, right, to get an idea of kind of how we wanted to do it as well. So we can have an idea of what we kind of wanted to make for you all today.
And it's a good idea to just hold it until your glue dries.
Right, so it kind of stays in place. Huh?
So now what I'd like to do at this part is just make sure that our pieces are in the right place. So that way, when we put it all together, it'll spin.
So on this part, how Riley was talking about, we have all these different shapes that will essentially act as different actions if they're a different shape. Try different things at home. We have, just because we cut out our pieces, right? We have all these different shapes, circular, a little more oval, some with even like full indentions in them, like this. But see what different objects you can find at home. You can try bottle caps, you can try, I mean, it's kind of endless on the different things you can try, but if you can get different sizes of stuff, even stuff that has different textures or different grooves, you can get your automata to do some really cool movements.
So I just tried to add a stabilizer to make things easier to work with as I'm gluing and doing these things. So now this should be more secure with all that glue I just added. So as you can see, it needs, in order for this to spin, if we put it on center, the piece would get stuck. But if the piece was smaller, it would just go into an up and down motion. So what we're going to do is put the base piece off to the side so it is angled like this. And like that, it will begin to spin. And once everything is more stable, the spinning will become more fluid as well. To help with that stability, you're going to cut a small piece of straw, and we ran into the problem where our piece of straw was too long and it got stuck with the moving parts. So if that does happen, we just cut the bottom with a box cutter. So you can go ahead and put this piece along the top and go in through the hole at the top. And while you're waiting for that to dry, you can start the process of making your mask that you want to put here, that you want to spin. So I went ahead and I made this. I wanted to put some hair on the sides to add some more movement as it was spinning. So at the end of the process, we're going to attach this to here, and we want our finishing product to spin around like this. While you're waiting for this to dry, what you can do while you're waiting is make your mask that will attach to the finishing product when it's done. I added some yarn hair on the sides to add some movement while it's spinning, and we're going to attach it to the front, and it should hopefully spin like this around the top.
Beautiful mask.
Thank you. So you can use any sort of material you want. You can use just paper and markers. For me, I used some cardboard. I used some textured paper to cut out different shapes, different colors, some beans I glued for teeth, These are the bottoms of Easter eggs for the eyes, some pom-poms, and some yarn for the hair. And you can be as creative as you want with this, as long as it can be attached to your final product. So as you can see right now, it is spinning. Make sure that you keep it off center because of the length of our base. It's going to get stuck if we do it this way, and if we had a shorter, more circular shape, it would just go up and down instead of spinning. So to get that spinning effect, I'm going to make sure to glue it so that it is slightly off-centered. So it spins just at an angle like this. And this spinning should be even more fluid when we add some stabilizers on the side so that this piece doesn't move as much. For stabilizers, just use pieces of cardboard with holes in the center. It doesn't really matter the shape, and just make sure that you keep your pieces exactly where they need to be while you're adding these stabilizers to the sides. Alright, so that's where I want everything to stay. I'm certain about that, so now is the time to glue the stabilizers to the sides.
While she was adding her stabilizers, she was continually spinning it and testing it and tweaking it, right? Making small adjustments, because as you're putting it together, some stuff might start to fall apart or not fit how it did initially, right? So you'll have to make small adjustments as you go throughout the whole way, you know? And that is part of the design process.
So once you've given that a minute to dry, I'm going to go ahead and test to make sure that this part is spinning in the way that I want it to be. All right.
Nice.
Nope.
So it's pretty cool because throughout the whole way, the more and more she's testing it, she's able to make improvements to get to our final product, and that's the part of it that there's always some improvement you can make, even when you completely finish. The same with like the final product that we had showed you guys with this example. There's still always little improvements that can get things to move smoother. How she was talking about how it's not as smooth as we want it to be through the straw here, but that's okay. That's maybe even something you guys can figure out at home, right? Is how to get this to move even smoother through the straw. What could you do to make that a smoother process?
And what I think I did wrong is I added a little bit too much glue at the top, but it is still spinning. I just need to be a little gentle with it, which you might have to be as well when you make this at home.
Nice.
And now let's add our finishing touch, our mask to the front.
Just have to hold it for a minute. So again, we're using hot glue, but think of other ways you can different attachment methods you can use. Even if it's like a stapler or string, how we had mentioned before, brass fasteners, paper clips, binder clips. There's tons of different ways in making that you can get the same result.
And I am trying to hold it against each other so that way the glue can dry stronger against the mask.
Nice. It attached well.
All right, and now we get to watch her spin.
That's awesome.
All right, and there you go. There's our finishing product.
Thank you guys for watching our Automata episode of our Make at Home series and see different things you could do. Maybe if you don't want to make a mask, there's different variations of things you can create and get really artistic with it. And thank you guys for watching.